where lust for a whole life and nothing but less makes people jump out of a comfortable pond into an unknown ocean. Welcome to that journey between the East and the West. Who says Rolling Stones don't gather moss? Hello, everyone. I am Meenu Gupta, your host for the day, and I'm delighted to have you join me every week as amazing people share their incredible and inspiring life stories of straddling continents. Thank you. What is non duality and oneness? What is diversity and unity? Why travel and seek out different countries and continents for answers which may lie within? Dear listeners, my guest for today, Dr. Sandra Meenu, might have a few answers for us from her lived experiences. She was raised in Germany and has traveled across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Somewhere in her journey of life, she found yoga and much more, the philosophy of non duality or oneness. This gutsy owner of a startup has journeyed not only within but also without. So, a very warm welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Meenu. I'm glad to be here and to talk with you.
I will dive into this. What motivated you to suddenly travel to different countries?
Actually, it started out in 2014 when a friend of mine, she saw some very cheap flights to Seychelles, which are in the Indian Ocean, and afterwards to Johannesburg and to Cape Town. So that was actually my first long flight. And well, step by step this year, I also went then to Tanzania, and I could really feel that connecting with the people and these countries and these areas and just experiencing how they live their life and how they see life from their perspectives made me so curious about just enjoying the life in different ways.
So it was curiosity beyond the cheap flights.
Yes. Definitely, as a PhD student, also the cheap flights were really, really important. As everyone might know, doing a PhD in chemistry. So, yeah, definitely.
And what struck you the most while going through different countries? Or they are very diverse places which you went to. One place very different from the next. So, what struck you the most?
Yeah, so my favorite traveling country so far is India for sure. It is India because in India there's no other country I have that feeling when I'm traveling that the situations are somehow seeking me. For example, sometimes the situation occurred and then somehow touches something within myself. Maybe this is becoming a little bit too spiritual, but yeah, definitely in India, I feel so many miracles in a very short time frame. And I can't even tell you why it is India. It's just happening there. So yeah, definitely India.
And what was your image of India then before you went? And did that change? In case it changed, how has it changed?
Yeah, before I came to India, so a friend of mine, she had traveled in India for, I think, 8 months, and she was amazed by the country. And first, I wanted to travel in Southeast Asia, so more Vietnam, Cambodia, and these countries. But I was also very curious about India. And so I went there because she was amazed. She told me after she came back, she said, someone told me in India that India doesn't give you what you want, but what you need. So before I came to India, I thought, oh, I will have like 6 to 9 months of traveling. I will have so much time for myself. And when I finally was in India, so I remember the first night in Delhi, and it was horrible because it was just so overwhelming, and I got cheated by a guy. And so and the next day I took the bus from Delhi, a 9 hours, 7 hours bus trip to Rishikesh, and that was also very much overwhelming. So I did a 1 month yoga apprenticeship there. That meant like 12 to 14 hours a day with 12 people on a very little space. You have never met before these guys. And, like really many characters are coming very intensely together. So that was definitely very intense. And so I got in this position that I had to really to become the observer of what is happening within me, because otherwise I would have gone crazy. And yeah, and after this apprenticeship, I remember I did this Buddhist meditation in MacLeod Ganj, where the Dalai Lama, and it's near Dharamshala, where the Dalai Lama lives in the exile. And I mean, luckily he can live there, right? This is so nice that it's very generous, definitely, that he can stay there, of the Indian government. And so yeah, and then I went hiking. I can tell you so much about this trip. I just loved it so much, and I could really sense that space is creating within myself, and I started really becoming the observer of my emotions, and I really learned that this is somehow working. It's like a technique when you're overwhelmed by your emotions. It's really, I learned it in India actually. And I always feel when I'm there that the people there, they are really sensitive. They can really sense what's somehow happening. And so they're kind of like just very nice and supportive. And so usually when I'm traveling in India, and I traveled a lot in the past. So I didn't stay longer than maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 days at one place, which is like really, I got a good picture from India. And so each day, actually each time I traveled, I met like within the first 2 or 3 hours such a nice person who helped, like, or who guided me in this area. For example, when I arrived in Varanasi 1 year ago, that was actually exactly at the same time last year. I was in Varanasi, and in the evening I arrived, and maybe 2 hours later I met a really nice guy, and he showed me around, and I stayed there I think for 4 days. And then I met a friend there who I've met like 2 years ago before the pandemic happened. He was my host in the northern part of India. So I just love it so much that these kind of things are happening all the time, and you meet people like, yeah, somehow it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful connection.
So, from that first day of a horrible experience, it turned after something changed inside you, and you were able to become an observer, which is actually also a fairly advanced stage. You were able to connect after you were able to, and then India took on a different, let's say, being way of being in an aura and a different experience, right?
Yeah. I mean, we as humans, when you're traveling, then you're not having your normal surrounding around you. You don't take your friends with you, you don't take so much stuff with you. So nobody knows you when you're traveling. And so you can be each day another person without no one is seeing that. And it's also so everything is very flexible when you're traveling. And in India, it's so amazing. I met so nice people always in the beginning, and they really were, yeah, very supportive, and I just loved it. And yeah,
While listening to you, I also realized, while you mentioned the last thing about traveling, probably in the process of traveling, you said flexible, probably it frees one in a certain way, because when we are in a certain place surrounded by same people, probably our responses also fall into a certain groove, and we become in a certain groove and in a particular form, in a way. And when we travel, we probably lose those borders and are able to explore other parts of ourselves which probably one didn't know before. Am I right?
yes, that's super interesting. This, like how you explain it. And, this is maybe it's also what traveling is teaching me, that actually there are only very, very little perspectives that are right or wrong. I mean, definitely it's wrong to hurt another person, right? And, or another sentient being. So this is, we should know this is definitely wrong. But so when it comes to what is right or what is wrong, which is quite interesting, it's explained in the Vipassana meditation. I think we you also told that you did that, right? You learn in this kind of meditation, you learn to observe or to question if the things, the conditioning, the meaning you put on things, like this is wrong or this is right, that actually it has no meaning by itself, but you really need to question always why is it, or why is it like this? Why is the way I'm thinking like this about a certain situation, is it right or is it wrong? And why do I have it? Why do I make it right, or why do I think I am right? And this becomes, yeah, as you said, quite flexible. And especially you when traveling, it makes it so much easier to see that, because, yeah, it's very interesting in my opinion.
Actually, I think it boils down to attitude and openness. As you rightly said, not only in the meditations, otherwise, I have figured long time back that as long as you stop putting labels to your thoughts, to people, and to situations, it is all okay. So, what could be right for you could be wrong for somebody else. So it is all a matter of perspective. And there's one line, I'm sure you've also come across the Bhagavad Gita since you traveled and you've been versed into the yoga. There is a, let me say, I don't read Sanskrit or the language, but I've read it in many ways in English. And there's a place where it says honor, dishonor, dignity, indignity. All these are cold and warmth, are matters of time as well. So, what may be dignity or indignity for you today, 5 years later, you might look at it in a very different way because you are also constantly evolving. You're constantly changing. You're a combination of thoughts and feelings. You're a ball of energy floating around, absorbing, discharging, and so on. So, it is all a matter of movement in and out. If we don't put borders on ourselves, if this my body ends here, another one starts somewhere else. In my humble opinion. So, I'm so glad I had never thought of that because some thoughts are coming while you mentioned about traveling. Because I had a similar experience, but in a different way when I traveled with my son to Dublin last year. And for just it was just a 7 day trip, supposed to be a mother son bonding trip. And for other people, what I'm going to say now, everybody would have said was a horrible trip, and for us it was beautiful. So even for example, via Munich we traveled, we sat in the aircraft, we were going to travel via Munich to Dublin. We were checked in and 5 hours we sat on the tarmac and the flight was suddenly cancelled, and my son and I were there, and we didn't panic because I told my son, hey, your adventure has just started. This is now turned, our travels turned into an adventure. He just took it in that spirit because that's a label I gave him. He didn't make noise.
How old is your son?
9 years. And he didn't make a noise. And the pilot showed him around also in the cockpit, and the staff was also amazed. They sent a message also later, we've never seen a kid like this. But it was not just about the kid. The kid was behaving like that because I didn't make noise. If I had started, oh, this is terrible and all the drama, then he would have also reflected the same drama. For example, we got a hotel that night. I don't know how we managed early in the morning, the next flight they gave us. Our drama didn't end there. We didn't get luggage, either on our trip or after coming back for a whole month.
Wow.
So medicines, luggage, or essentials. All his clothes, because he's a kid, didn't reach us there. The night we reached, the next morning, he fell sick. So 3 days we were stuck in the hotel. So we had 2 days left of holiday. We put in all the money in a nice place we stayed. All the time we just said, okay, this is interesting. Let's go buy clothes. I'll just hop across and buy some clothes. It's another adventure. And we had 2 days left. So we said, okay, great, you got well. Let's now travel and see for 2 days whatever is remaining. And we still had fun. We came back, and I still remember the staff in that hotel. Till today, I remember every evening they would look at us and ask, "Do you get your luggage?" No. And we were not, we were still smiling. Both of us were still smiling. So they wondered, told us the last day, we've never seen people like you.
It's so beautiful.
So, and we came back, and it was a wonderful trip somehow because we went to a different place. We had an adventure. It doesn't have to flow the way we made up our minds to flow. Like, a piece of bread you put in the oven, you wanted it to be round and it turned out to be square, but still bread, for example.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Really, it's a beautiful story. It's really nice. It really warms my heart, to be honest, because you didn't let the outer experience control the situation. You know, your inner feeling, but really the inner feeling, your intention really set all the outer surrounding for it, and then everything became beautiful. And this is just such a beautiful way of observing that.
So when you come back, so in all your experiences between the East and the West, all the travels that you did, so India is a country where you say it struck you the most, and that you connected with that country the most. When you come back to Germany, in Hamburg, to your home, how do you feel then? Suddenly, it's a very completely different world out there, outside you. How does that affect you inside? How do you feel?
So in the beginning, I always take the warmth of India back to Germany. So that means usually that I connect with my surrounded people much more, than I look at strangers all the time. I never look, sometimes I can observe myself walking to the supermarket and then don't not what or not looking the other person in front of me in the eyes. And so I much don't know. Maybe it's also because I have a break, from that I can take also my mind can relax a little bit after like 2 or 3 weeks. Then I feel much more attentive as well. So I feel much more aware of my surrounding. And so this is getting lost, unfortunately, I have to admit. But it's good again that we talk about it. So it's also I will keep our talk as a reminder to continue again. So definitely.
And how do you when you said when you because what I understand is you connect, you are in a different way of being, or you are feeling your beingness much more when you are in India. What I hear from you, the underlying thread, and when you are back in the West, in this case Germany, you get into the doing mode, and the beingness sort of sometimes is taken over by the doing. So, in that space between the being and the doing, where is home for you and what is home? Where do you think you belong?
So when I feel like myself a lot, this means when I'm in the being. Almost sounds a little bit like doing mode when I'm in the being. And then I feel actually home, then I can really feel myself, and then I can be with my thoughts without reacting. And yeah, I would summarize it like that. So when I feel myself, and this means when I also can observe the not so nice thoughts, and when I can stay with them for a longer time without pushing them away, because we want to grasp thoughts or we want to push them away. And this is what I observed so far, or what I'm still observing at myself. This is very exhausting. And being with these thoughts, it's very, very well releasing.
So that means home is not, for you, it's not just about a place, it's outside. It's not about Germany, India, or Africa, or any other place. It's about a way of being.
Yes, it's inside, definitely.
Yeah, you found your sweet spot then. That was very nice. A lot of people take a long time to reach that spot if they do. And so that means your travels to different countries brought you deeper home to yourself.
Yeah, because I can really see and I really observed that home is not outside, and home is it's more a feeling. Of course, it's also to connect. I think connecting is very important for feeling home, because if you're the only person in the world, on the planet, then you won't be able to connect with other people. Or if you just put yourself in your flat and not going outside, this is also not, we will feel very separated, I think, from the outer world. And this, I think, separation causing us humans a lot of pain, because the Homo sapiens, we are in groups. It's our nature to be in groups. And I think feeling a separation from other people is causing this pain. And so I would say home is not only feeding yourself, but also to connect with other people.
That's a very nice way to put it. Question: you've seen diversity in many forms and thoughts and ways of being in the, let's say, in the public world, the private world, the political world, and so on. The whole world right now is talking of diversity and inclusion. It's like the whole brouhaha about it, actually. Sometimes it's overwhelming, the subject. So, how would you define diversity?
For me, diversity, it's so I love people, I love humans. Of course, I also need some time for myself from time to time, but I love humans. I love to be with other people. And in my opinion, it's always the most fun when people are from different countries, people are from different areas. And, it's just, it makes everyone has another perspective. And the more diverse it is, the better it is, in my opinion, because then you have more perspectives and then almost it becomes like a journey. You don't need to go out of Germany or you don't need to go out of Hamburg to have a nice kind of trip journey with other people. You can also stay in Hamburg and then just meet people from different countries. And then you also have this nice, of course, you are in Germany then. Maybe also that has an influence, but you have really interesting stories and like, what is done in this country, what is done in that country, and why it is seen like that. And also, if you just listen and if you really listen well and if you understand how it does work, then you really get a glimpse again of this non-duality, because you can really see maybe there are some standpoints, I can also understand. And this is like really interesting. At the moment, I don't have a certain example, but yeah.
So essentially, you're talking of diversity in unity.
Yeah, again, somehow. It always comes back to this topic. I don't know why, but it's interesting. No, yeah, but diversity is, I think it's very important, because also then it gets boring, when everyone has the same opinion. And yeah, so I think it's always good to have a good talk, and people can challenge, or people should challenge each other. And I think this makes lots of growth. Like challenging each other makes lots of growth, and this is very important. And as long as you stay nice and calm, and if you are open to listen, then great.
Could you consider yourself a global citizen? I mean, that term is also being used quite often in many circles nowadays. So, do you call yourself a global citizen?
Yeah, I would say so. So at least when I'm traveling, I'm always calling myself as a European. So, and I would definitely say I'm a global citizen, because, I think many people are somehow always foreigners, because when I'm in Berlin, I mean, actually I'm from Lübeck, but of course I have been living in Hamburg for 15 years, so I could call myself already someone from Hamburg. But if I'm in Berlin or if I'm in music, then for me, it's also being kind of foreigner, especially when I'm in Munich, because people are so different from here. And definitely I would call myself a global citizen, yes.
Why?
Because mostly I connect very fast with people in a place where I don't yet know so many people. And then I can easily see that we have some similarities. And it makes the perspectives, that also gives kind of a feeling of no separation.
Okay, so your ability to connect to people in different places is what, according to you, and you're comfortable in that, and that is being a global citizen. Interesting. I believe you also embarked on your startup journey in 2020. So, what motivated you to do that? And another question related to that, which I find actually very interesting, the trend. There's a whole generation now all over the world, not only, in Germany or in India or in Africa, all over the world, there's this whole generation which is suddenly going into this startup mode as well. A lot of people. Do you think you can explain that a bit? because to understand first your motivation, and maybe you could voice that from the other people's perspective as well.
I think definitely this almost a kind of revolution in my opinion, because, I think the years are maybe over, that the times are over when people have the impression that they really need to follow a certain rule, or that only a certain rule is true in life. Actually, you as a person, so this is in my opinion, you for yourself are the person who should decide what you're doing in life and what is good for you and what makes you happy, right? Okay, this is becoming a bigger topic, I can already sense. Yeah, so for me, when I graduated from school, I think I was 19 when I graduated from school. And I mean, I knew that I wanted to study. First, I wanted to study mathematics, but then I decided for chemistry. And I always wanted to study something in nature sciences because it gave me so much safety somehow. But yeah, I always thought, okay, I will study, then I will do my PhD, and then I will start working, and then I will do this and this and this and this. And actually, I couldn't wait when I studied. I couldn't wait to finish, and I was super motivated. And then there were some outer situations that really gave me the feeling, or I really needed to stop, like doing only doing the things that someone's or one or we we or me I thought that are good for me or that I need to do, because so it was, I think, 2015. Yeah, my mother died very suddenly 2015, and I really needed to stop to work and to run in this hamster wheel. That is the right picture for my situation at that time. And I really needed to think about what I will want to do in my life and what really gives me joy, because I was so sad. Like when your parents die, I mean, if you have a good relation to your parents, then, and if one person dies very suddenly, and this person is the longest person you have ever met and you have ever been in your life with, then you really think about what makes you happy and what you want to do in life, because life can be over so fast. Sometimes it's much, much faster finished or ended than you think. And also in this, I mean, this was a really, really, really sad situation for a long, long time. I was very sad, but also that gave me so much strength to really do what I always wanted to do. And so this idea with my startup, I had already in 2014, and this thought came up to my mind so many times, and I didn't do it. And yeah, and then before I went to India, 2019, I said, okay, when I'm going back, then when I'm coming back from India, then I'm founding my startup. And then COVID started. I came back when COVID started, or I came back with a repatriation flight from the German embassy, and that was a really uncertain time. But looking back, it was a really good time actually, because I really have had lots of time for myself. I could really discover myself in that during that time in India. And also, I mean, it's not only the time in India, of course. Actually, you can always discover yourself, and you should all discover ourselves all the time. But sometimes we forget that. It's very important to make some space in the routine life, I would say, and or to trying out new things. This is also very important, because also means the same, like discovering yourself. Oh my God, your question was so I came so.
That question triggered a whole different life, huh? A memory of a whole different start of a life. So it was not just about the startup. The startup was a product of a whole journey.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that was when you discovered what you discovered, probably that life and death are just two sides of a coin. It can happen anytime. We are not limitless in terms of
Yes.
time. And I do agree with you about when one of the parents, and particularly the mother, and I'm sorry for
Mm.
that, but it's like cutting off the umbilical cord. Then one actually feels it then, because all along I feel that there's an emotional umbilical cord of a being which is there constantly, and suddenly that is snapped.
Yeah.
And then you feel the snap. You are suddenly separate and on your own, in a way.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's such a good picture. Yes. So actually, we have that maybe twice in our living life. First time when we go out of the belly, and the second time when the mother dies. Maybe, yeah.
True. So, in a way, it's another birth. There's also another way of doing that, a third way, I would say, of when particularly people take up monkhood. They also say that is the reason they say also take another name, then sometimes, particularly in the Indian way, they take up another name and another entity. So that's and that was one life, and that is rebirth. So into another way of life, probably. So, but yes, the most intense is the first one where it is suddenly snapped and you are conscious that is snapped. When you're a child, you're not conscious. When you're a baby and you come out and everything is really not in your control, but in this way you are very conscious, you have your conscious body with you and different levels of consciousness, and you feel it at all levels then. So I totally understand, but yeah, from the storm you came out. There's also something, a process called churning of butter. A lot of churning happens and finally the butter comes out.
Yeah, 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 true. I didn't know what the German word for churning is, but now I know. Yes. Mm.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I wish you all the best on your journey ahead. And do come back to us later with all that you collect, all the gems on the way. Look forward to having you once again in a couple of years with some more to share.
It was wonderful, Meno. I really enjoyed to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the series Between the East and the West. Do subscribe to the channels mentioned on the site in case, of course, you liked what you heard. I am Meenu Gupta, the host of the series, and I'll be looking forward to your comments. We love feedback. Thank you once again. Namaste and bye bye.